Committee's final rankings playing out at noon Eastern time on ESPN. Indiana earning the top seed after beating Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. Buckeyes take the 2 seed over Georgia. Tulane, James Madison earn automatic bids over Duke as conference champs. And Notre Dame and Alabama earn the final 2 at-large spots, making Miami and BYU the first teams out. This is what she projects. This is not Heather Dinich's opinion. Do not flood her timeline on Twitter, okay? Paul Finebaum joins us. Now, we're going to get an opinion from this guy. He's not going to give us a projection. I'm sure that tomorrow's show is going to be very easy. Just open up the phone lines and just sit there and listen to your callers on your radio show. I want to know the best teams, because this is what this is all about. It's the 12 best teams. There are 2 spots and 3 teams. Give me the best teams to make the playoff between Alabama, Notre Dame, and Miami.
Kevin, that's an impossible question to answer, but I'll give it a shot. The answer is Alabama, but that Miami lawyer is me right now, and there is a stipulation to that, because that is not how we got to this point. And if the committee does that, then that's fine, but just cancel the championship games next year, because they are dead as we know it. You've heard that before, but there has to be a purpose behind this, and it seems ridiculously unfair to put either Notre Dame or Miami in for sitting home and going to the mall yesterday, while Alabama had to get on the field against a team it had beaten in late September in Athens. Everyone knows that. The committee knows that, and it'll be fascinating to see how they go. But I would go with Alabama, because to me, there has to be some penalty for losing the game, and the penalty is dropping down, but there should be a built-in reward, and that is staying in the playoffs.
We have seen teams lose in conference championship games in the past that not just drop 1 spot, they drop the 2 spots. So you gave me just 1. I want the second best team in your mind of those 3 teams. That is between now Notre Dame and Miami.
And Kevin, that's the easiest question you've ever asked me, because there should be no doubt about this. Nolo contendere, to sound like a lawyer in court. It is Miami. I don't want to hear from Notre Dame. You played on the field, you lost. Don't give me data points. Don't give me gibberish. Don't tell me anything. You're not even in a conference. You don't even belong in this conversation, because at least Miami plays in the conference. Now, why they didn't get in the conference championship game, I'll defer to Charlotte and the ACC commissioner for whatever convoluted reason they came for putting Duke in. I realize that's a question later, but Miami definitely should be in there. You have to reward the head-to-head. Other than that, they're pretty much identical teams.
Paul, I want to ask you, 2017, we had Auburn number 2. They had just beaten Alabama. Alabama was 5. Auburn loses to Georgia. Alabama gets in after that loss. They were out, and then with Auburn losing, they got in. They go on to win the national championship. Haven't we already seen that play itself out, where a team that was sitting on the sidelines, wasn't playing, was rewarded because a team playing in a conference championship lost?
Dusty, I don't want to sound like an Alabama historian, but I am. And not only are you correct, it also happened in 2011. Don't forget, Alabama lost to LSU on its own field, didn't go to the SEC game, and guess what? They got to play LSU in the national championship game and shut them out. Yes, it has happened before, but we are now in a different iteration, and I think you have to respect however convoluted this system is. And by the way, it is convoluted. And Kevin, you asked me about the best teams. We're not even talking about Tulane and JMU. Good for them to get in. I'm happy for them. But if you're talking about the best teams, they don't fit into this equation either.
Paul, it's Lewis. Hey, man, I just wanted to ask you something, because, we keep talking about, and people keep bringing up the fact that this committee is a big eye test committee. So that means actually they watch the games, and they are really trying to subjectively rank these football teams based upon how they actually play the game. So in that regard, when you're looking at Alabama right now, and you watch how they played yesterday, you watch how they played against Auburn, and you watch how Miami finished the season and how Notre Dame finished the season. If you were to look at that and you're not looking at strength of schedule, strength of record, common opponents, you weren't looking at any of that, and you're just watching these football teams play, and you watched Alabama yesterday, who do you think is the best team right now as presently constituted?
I think it would be a conversation between Miami and Notre Dame. And, for all of what I've already said about Alabama sounding like I'm a barrister in court, Alabama has been terrible lately. That game yesterday, I've covered Alabama football since the end of Paul Bryant. He retired in 1982. That is one of the most disgraceful performances I have ever seen on a big stage. It was inexcusable. So, Lewis, yes, I'm not going to sit here and sound like a bigger idiot than I probably already sound like. Your question is correct, and there's no way losing my Alabama card-carrying trophy and card, you can't argue for that, but I think there's so many other aspects of this, and quite frankly, we're probably going to end up doing away with conference championship games, have a play-in game, and that's probably where we should be having this conversation in the future with 16. But Alabama, the last couple of weeks of the season, does not belong on the same field with some of these other schools.
Paul, coming into this game, or really all the games yesterday, I agree with you in the sense that the conference championship should be seen as a reward, not necessarily something that'll take you out of the playoff. But then Alabama got beat down by Georgia, so now we're looking at them as a different football team. But you kind of hit something right there. What do you think will be the best use of the conference championship games in the future as far as the CFP?
It should be a play-in game. And being in Atlanta yesterday, I've covered that game so many times throughout my career. It was fun. It was a great celebration. But on the field, it just didn't feel the same. A couple of years ago, remember when Georgia and Alabama played, Georgia was a great team. Saban knocked them out. That was one of the better Georgia teams I've seen that didn't win a championship. There was real consequences on that game because Alabama was able to move on to play in a semifinal game. Last year, there was a little bit to it with Texas and Georgia, but there just wasn't much on the line. And I had somebody come up to me yesterday in Atlanta and say, hey, what do you think about that 1 versus 2 game going on up north? And I'm not playing dumb here. I had to think about it for a second because I've seen 1 versus 2 games as all of you, and it was probably the least compelling going in I've ever seen. We have to figure out a way to make these games on the final weekend more important, more compelling, and more meaningful, and having conference championship games does not answer that bill.
Paul, let's go a little bit deeper here in this layered conversation, because if Notre Dame were to switch spots here with Alabama, it's suddenly a conversation with Alabama and Miami, right? Alabama lost to Florida State. Miami beat Florida State. You also talked about these games matter. Miami beat Notre Dame. So without question, Miami needs to get in over Notre Dame because the games matter. What would be the fallout? And I want to add one other thing. Alabama did win in Athens. They have the best win out of all 3 of them. What would be the fallout for the Tide if they do not get in after losing 28-7 yesterday?
Well, you referenced the radio show Monday. End of the world as we know it, Kevin. I mean, we are having a substantive conversation about how bad Alabama looked, but I'm not sure Finebaum callers are going to have the same conversation. But in fairness, Alabama put themselves in that position, and yeah, they got the unlucky draw. They were the number 1 seed in the SEC, and Kalen DeBoer can argue that. But he can't argue the fact that his team looked inept, ill-prepared, and out of sorts. They had a lot of injuries, but who doesn't have a lot of injuries on the first Saturday in December?
Paul, looking forward to, of course, the calls tomorrow. Looking forward to what we're going to get in an hour. Thank you so much for joining us here, Paul Finebaum. Hey, and Paul's honest, though. I mean, obviously, he understands the situation. Alabama, they have the best win of the 3 teams. There's no question. You could even make a case they may have the second best of the 3 teams, right? Especially what they did against Vanderbilt. Now, I will bring this one thing up, though. They look sluggish against Auburn. Yep. And I get it's the Iron Bowl. But you brought up their schedule. They didn't look good the final month. After what we just heard from Paul here, what's your reaction?
Well, four straight games. You lose to Oklahoma. You lose to Turner Bell 3-0. You play an FCS team. You eke out a victory against a 5-7 Auburn team, and you get boat raced in the SEC championship game. Like, to me, again, I don't know what this committee is looking at. Right. But for me, how you look and how you're playing at the end of the season is going to matter, and Alabama doesn't look good. One thing that I'm curious about, what will Greg Sankey say, and how will he act if a team that competed in the SEC championship game that was in going in is now left out? You know, that's going to be fascinating.
On the flip side of that, and I'll just say this real quick, though, what is one of the number 1 arguments that people make for Notre Dame? It's how they have looked the last quarter of the season. They are trending up. They are kicking the crap out of everyone. It's not who they're playing, it's how they're playing.
Right now, best team.
It's how they're playing. Exactly. It's not about who they're playing, it's about how they're playing. With Alabama, it's, but we played this team and we played this team, even if you look. Wait, it can't be both ways, man. It can't be good when it's good, but when it's bad, it doesn't matter.
And Miami the same way. Over 27, the point differential plus 27 the last 4 games. They're trending in the right
We've
direction.
got 55 more minutes, guys. I cannot wait. We will continue this conversation as we continue.
Yeah, I think you have to be pragmatic, and you can't say, well, if you lead BYU or Alabama in to save college championship games, because they're going to be out. So you have to look at it as we have always looked at it, and I don't think I don't think BYU and Alabama should be penalized while other schools stayed at home and did nothing. So I think at least in Alabama's case, they deserve to be exactly where they were last week, maybe down a notch or two. BYU, I'm not as passionate about because they even looked worse than Alabama, if that's humanly possible. But I think it's time for the commissioners to, let's move to 16 teams and these